Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Word of the Day for Tuesday, March 25th. I'm your host, Rene Holaday, and we have an exciting random turning that is waiting for us this morning from the Lord. And that random turning comes to us from 1 Samuel chapter 17, and that reads under the title David and Goliath. one of history's all-time great tales, and it's not just a tale. I mean, it was an actual event in history. And so we're actually going to turn this into a short mini series because there's so many wonderful things that we can cover about this story. I mean, it's just like I said, one of the best stories in all of history. And so, well, let's dive in. And what I'm going to do today is, as I'm reading along, and the Bible notes describe various different parts of the verses, I'm going to go ahead and explain those while we're going along, and so we'll just be kind of changing format a little bit so that we can be explaining the story as we're going along. So, so let's get started. It reads, Now the Philistines gathered their forces for war and assembled at Socoh in Judah. They pitched camp at Ephes Dammim between Socoh and Azekah. Saul and the Israelites assembled and camped in their valley of Elah and drew up their battle line to meet the Philistines. The Philistines occupied one hill and the Israelites another, with the valley between them. A champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. His height was 6 cubits and a span. And most of you know this already, but just in case you don't, it says here that that actually ends up being 9 feet 9 inches. And so it says here that he had a bronze helmet on his head and wore a coat of scale armor of bronze weighing 5,000 shekels. Well, the 5,000 shekels ends up being about 125 pounds. So just imagine somebody that's 9 foot 9 inches with 125 pounds of chainmail. That's like carrying a small person around. Well, and so on his legs he wore bronze greaves, and a bronze javelin was slung on his back. His spear shaft was like a weaver's beam, and its iron point weighed 600 shekels. Okay, so how much is 600 shekels? Well, 600 shekels is right between 15 and 16 pounds. And so that is just the iron point on the end of his spear. Oh my goodness. So you've got a huge spear with a 15 to 16 pound weight at the very far end of it. Imagine the strength it would take to hold and to throw something with a long shaft on it with that much weight on one end. Wow. It says his shield bearer went ahead of him. Goliath stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, Why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine? And are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us. Then the Philistine said, This day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other. On hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed and terrified. Well, interesting here because it says that in the notes, Saul and all the Israelites were terrified. Well, Saul was Israel's giant warrior. Did you know that? It's kind of interesting here in the Bible notes. It describes that that in chapter 9, verses 2 and 3, it says, Kish had a son named Saul, as handsome a young man as could be found anywhere in Israel, and he was a head taller than anyone else. Now, I don't really recall reading that Saul had been such a handsome young man and that he was a head taller than everyone else. So that's very interesting. And of course, we were talking about this the other day, where why did David get so mad at the death of Ishbosheth? Because he was part of Saul's family. He was one of Saul's sons, and Jonathan was his other son. And 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 why did David even care about Saul? And I had mentioned because he honored the fact that God chose him. And right here in verse 9, to kind of clarify and bring that point forward, it says, in verse 15, now the day before Saul came, the Lord had revealed this to Samuel. About this time tomorrow, I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin. Anoint him ruler over my people Israel. He will deliver them from the hand of the Philistines. I have looked on my people, for their cry has reached me. When Samuel caught sight of Saul, the Lord said to him, this is the man I spoke to you about. He will govern my people. Saul approached Samuel in the gateway and asked, would you please tell me where the seer's house is? I am the seer, Samuel replied. Well, and so there is where Samuel meets Saul and vice versa. And so very interesting note here about Saul and that progression. But yeah, so here's Saul, Israel's giant warrior in their eyes. They considered him a giant, some handsome giant, and he's he's basically terrified. He quaked before the Philistine champion, and champion is actually the word for champion means middleman. And so when it says that Gath was the champion of the Philistines, that actually means that he was the middleman that was sent to basically be in charge of a man, one-on-one man's battle, and instead of you know running their entire army through, the champion was called the middleman, and he would be the one that could actually definitively take care of that battle. And so when they say here's the champion of the Philistines, that term actually means middleman. So interesting. And then it says here, their fear also demonstrated that the Israelites' search for security in a human king, apart from the trust in the Lord, had failed. On the basis of God's covenant promises, Israel was never to fear its enemies, but was to trust in the Lord. And so it continues to read, then the Philistine said, this day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other. On hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed and terrified. Now David, here's the fun part. Here's where David steps onto the scene. Now David was the son of an Ephrathite named Jesse, who is from Bethlehem in Judah. Jesse had 8 sons, and in Saul's time he was very old. Jesse's 3 oldest sons had followed Saul to the war. The firstborn was Eliab, the second Abinadab, and the third Shammah. David was the youngest. The 3 oldest followed Saul, but David went back and forth from Saul to tend his father's sheep at Bethlehem. 40 days the Philistine came forward every morning and evening and took his stand. Now Jesse said to his son David, take this ephah of roasted grain and these 10 loaves of bread for your brothers and hurry to their camp. Now pause here one second. Just a little tidbit of information here. It says that take this ephah of roasted grain. Well, they figured that weighed about 36 pounds. So in case you ever wondered how much his dad was sending to him and his brothers to eat, well, 36 pounds of grain is going to make a lot of bread. Well, and then it says, take along these 10 cheeses to the commander of their unit. See how your brothers are and bring back some assurance from them They are with Saul and all the men of Israel in the valley of Elah, fighting against the Philistines. Early in the morning, David left the flock in the care of a shepherd, loaded up and set out as Jesse had directed. He reached the camp as the army was going out to its battle position, shouting the war cry. Israel and the Philistines were drawing up their lines facing each other. David left his things with the keeper of supplies, ran to the battle lines, and asked his brothers how they were. As he was talking with them, Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, stepped out from his lines and shouted his usual defiance, and David heard it. Whenever the Israelites saw the man, they all fled from him in great fear. Now the Israelites had been saying, "Do you see how this man keeps coming out? He comes out to defy Israel. The king will give great wealth to the man who kills him. He will also give him his daughter in marriage and will exempt his family from taxes in Israel." David asked the men standing near him, "What will be done for the man who kills this Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel? Who is the uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" Yay! There we have David, who is who fully understands and fears the Lord, and it has been witness to God working on his behalf for many years. God has shown through very strong with David, and David completely trusts in and honors the Lord to the nth degree, where it's giant schmiant. Who cares? I've killed lions and bears thanks to the Lord. The Lord has delivered me out of the paw of the lion, out of the paw of the bear. I'm going to do the same thing to Goliath. So, hooray. Who cares how big Saul is? Little David is way bigger than Saul. Bigger in heart, that is, and bigger in understanding of the Lord. So it says here, they repeated to him that they had been saying and what they had been saying, and told him, "This is what will be done for the man who kills him." When Eliab, David's oldest brother, heard him speaking with the men, he burned with anger at him and asked, "Why have you come down here? And with whom did you leave those few sheep in the wilderness? I know how conceited you are and how wicked your heart is. You came down only to watch the battle." Boy, leave it to your siblings. Jeez, wow, that's pretty rough. I have some of that in my own sibling history. So it says here, "Now what have I done?" said David. "Can't I even speak?" He then turned away to someone else and brought up the same matter, and the men answered him as before. What David said was overheard and reported to Saul, and Saul sent for him. David said to Saul, "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." Saul replied, "You are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth." But David said to Saul, "Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." Saul said to David, "Go, and the Lord be with you." You know, that is called confidence and fully understanding who God is, and trusting that if God said it, that's how it is, and that you can take that to the bank any day of the week. If God said it, and if God said that Israel's armies are the armies of God, well, then by all means, what do you have to fear? And that is such an important point for us to understand in our faith. I mean, what can man do to us with God standing directly behind us, right? Well, we're going to continue on with this tomorrow for Wednesday's word of the day because this story is just simply awesome. This is one of history's very, very most awesome stories, and so, well, let's we'll just wrap it up here, and we will continue on with more of the excitement for tomorrow. And also, like I said, I love the comments below. Please feel free to comment, and I just hope to see you again tomorrow morning. And you all have a wonderful and blessed day.